Norv Turner, Phillip Rivers, and the San Diego Chargers.
The San Diego Superchargers.
Anyway.
As you can tell, we're having a little fun here on a Monday, which is nice because normally we come in Monday and Dave's a little monotone. He gives us a little Joe Buck usually on Mondays.
I am a little more Buck-like.
Because you're usually upset about
Buck-like.
either the Wilson or the Romo and the Cowboys. Today, I feel like Dave just had a good weekend overall. I feel like Dave's a happy man.
I am. I got the national championship I was hoping for. The Cowboys, though they made Nick Foles look like a Pro Bowler, did win.
Beat a division foe, too.
Beat a division foe that was without 4 Pro Bowlers from last year, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. They still won. Dallas had their share of injuries as well, but whatever.
Just to comment on something Tim threw in the chat room, just so you know, buddy, everybody hates Joe Buck. Unfortunately for the Green Bay fans, they got some more Joe Buck this weekend. Us fortunate Giant fans, we're on Monday night.
You got Mike Tirico, Mr. Gruden. Can't go wrong. I like John Gruden. That's another thing we could have talked about from this weekend as well.
I'm surprised you haven't mentioned your hatred for Chris Collinsworth today. You did have to listen to him all night last night.
Yeah, I sort of just zoned him out. I was more focused on my Cowboys making Nick Foles look like a Pro Bowler. Anyway, so how about them San Diego Superchargers? I know this is
blowing another fourth quarter lead.
Not a local team for most of us.
We're not going to spend a lot of time on it.
Either. So I know a lot of you guys that are local for us aren't that interested, but at the same time, if anybody out there that tuned in because of us talking about the Chargers, we got to talk about them. I sent out the tweet. Figured Charger fans might tune in. We got to make sure that we talk about them for a couple minutes.
Well, let's talk.
So this team, once again, takes a 13-10 lead into the fourth quarter and gets outscored 10-0 in the fourth quarter and once again loses a fourth quarter lead. Fourth time this season that this team has blown a lead in the fourth quarter. They're a 4-8 team. So that means half their losses have come with them winning in the going into the fourth quarter, or at least for some duration of the fourth quarter. Yet turnovers, bad play calling, or giving up a 4th and 29 to Ray Rice a week ago has done this team in. I mean, they played a decent game yesterday.
But it shows you where they're at. They're lacking the talent.
Oh, they're lacking talent. They're lacking a freaking run game. They only ran the ball 11 times. How do you go into the fourth quarter with a lead and only have 11 rushing attempts? How do you do that?
Because they don't have anybody to run the ball. This kid Matthews they brought in isn't the runner they thought he'd be. They got rid of Tolbert. Jackie Battle is only as good as Jackie Battle can be. They don't have a run game, and if you look, they don't have anybody on the outside. Who do they have? Malcolm Floyd and Robert Meacham.
Yeah.
Where are you going with 2 number 3 receivers? And then you got Gates, but you can't put it all on Gates' shoulders. They are lacking talent on this team, and that's not something they've lacked in years past. They miss Vincent Jackson. They miss Tolbert. They miss some people, and their defense is good, but it's not great.
Well, I mean, look at this. I mean, look, I understand Matthews may not be what people thought he was going to be. 46 yards on 11 carries, 4.2 yards a carry. What else can you ask for? They have 4 sacks for a loss of 29 yards. Only let Rivers get sacked once. They win the turnover battle. They break even in penalties. They outgain them. That's where I'm confused. You look at this game, statistically, they played a better game. But your bottom line, 0 for 3 in the red zone. 0 for 3. No points at all inside the 20-yard line. That is unacceptable as a professional NFL team. You should not let at least get field goals. 1 field goal, and all of a sudden this is a game where we're not talking about them blowing a fourth quarter lead. Instead, we're talking about maybe they win if they get 3 field goals out of their 3 red zone possessions. they score 22 points and they win by 2. Now, I will give credit to Cincinnati for driving down the field for the game-winning drive, but there was over 4 minutes left on the clock when Cincinnati scored a touchdown. San Diego couldn't do anything. Look, I look at this team, and they are far from what they were 4 or 5 years ago. They're even farther from what they were 6, 7 years ago. When you had Wade Phillips at pass rusher or as D coordinator, you had Merriman and Sean Phillips, Sean Phillips.
It's the talent. They don't have the talent.
No, because they let them all go, and they think they can just replace them.
Well, they just think that Rivers was so good over the last few years. Oh, Rivers will just carry us. Rivers will carry us. Rivers will motivate other guys. He'll get the ball around. It's not that simple. You have to put people around him. When Rivers was at his best is when he had Tomlinson. When he had, Vincent Jackson and Gates. When they had O'Neal playing fullback, big, strong fullback that cleared the way. When they had, like you said, Merriman and Wade,
Well, you
Phillips,
had a young Sean Phillips. You had Sean Merriman when he actually played good. Wade Phillips running your defense. And you see what he does for Houston down there. So, obviously, when he just runs a defense, pretty damn good defense.
He's a lot better running a defense than he is running the whole team.
Yeah, amen to that. But, he can run a defense. This team was different. Phillip Rivers, in the past 2 seasons, including yesterday, 11 fourth-quarter turnovers. More than any other quarterback in the entire NFL, and that's by like 4 or 5. Not by like just 1, but like by 4 or 5. 11 fourth-quarter turnovers. Do you think that him turning over the ball is credited to the fact that he feels like he has to carry this team?
I feel like he has to force it. And he feels like he has to force it. So once you get into that mode, mistakes are bound to happen.
Yeah, I look at him as a guy that puts the same weight on his shoulders as, say, a Drew Brees does without the talent of Drew Brees, which is funny to say since San Diego let Drew Brees go. But do you think that's a fair comparison? People look at Drew Brees and account him for carrying that football team. But he carries the football team. Now, I understand they're a game under 500 right now, and they're not having, the year they hope they have had, but there's a lot of different things that have gone against the Saints this year, and the fact that they're even right around the playoff race is impressive to me. But I think that's what Phillip Rivers is trying to do. He's trying to carry the team, and he doesn't have the ability to do it. And Timbo, you do make a good point.
Yeah, he does.
Brees has a lot more options to work with than Phillip Rivers does.
Oh, absolutely.
No question
you
about it.
You would 100% take the guys that Brees has around him rather than the guys Rivers has around him. There's no denying that. Colston, Henderson, Sproles.
Lance Moore, Sproles,
and another guy
Ingram,
you don't talk
Ivory,
about. How about
Thomas.
when Phillip Rivers was at his best, he had Sproles to help him.
Yes.
A lot of people forget that. Sproles was a big part of San Diego's offense before he came to New Orleans.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it. I think that's
He helped in the return game. He helped in the passing game. The run. He helped all over the field.
Yes.
You can't just keep losing talent and expecting the same results.
Yes, and I also and I think part of it, and I also think that them thinking Matthews could take over for LT was a mistake. I think that letting a guy like Vincent, one thing people don't realize is one of the reasons they let Vincent Jackson go was because they had a kid by the name of Vincent Brown. Now, Vincent Brown tore his ACL and MCL or something like that in the preseason and missed all year. He didn't touch the field since like week 1 or 2 of the preseason. This kid last year showed some really good signs of being a big man, deep threat, similar to Vincent Jackson. Now, obviously, I don't follow the Chargers to the point where I know the ins and outs of their roster, and I know, I watched tape of this guy in training camp and all that. So I don't know that much about him. What I'm assuming, though, is they let Vincent Jackson go with hopes that this guy was going to replace what Vincent Jackson was doing for them. And that injury is a huge injury for this team, and I know that has an effect on what they hope to do for this year, but that is no excuse for what they've done over the last 3 months. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's something that hurt them going into the year, but at this point, you should have made an adjustment and figured out something different. You can't just let one guy, especially a guy nobody really even knows of, be a determining factor in what happens in your season. But lack of play from their offensive line, their defense is inconsistent. I mean, Eric Weddle, to me, is their best defensive player. and he's a safety that struggles to stay healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have Corey Legit. Not a bad player.
Well, they got
player,
the kid, was it Melvin Ingram as well?
Melvin Ingram they took in the first round this year. They have some young guys, some young talent, but the thing to me is they have, like you said before, not enough weapons for Rivers where he puts too much pressure on himself. And let's be serious, Antonio Gates hasn't been the same player in almost 2 years.
No.
3 years. He just hasn't been. And some of that's due to Rivers not playing as well, and some of that's just due to him injuries and age catching up with him and all that. And to me, the San Diego, you know how Jerry Jones could, the Cowboys' window is closing. To me, the San Diego's Chargers window was slammed shut during the offseason. When they started losing Vincent Jackson, Sproles was gone the year before. Their window has closed, and they have to figure out how to reopen it, because I don't think Rivers is as bad as he's played over the past year and a half. I think he is better than what we've seen from him in the last, 28 games or whatever it may be between last season and this season so far. But either which way, San Diego Chargers, Norv Turner. I think Norv Turner's out the door. I think the only question really with Norv Turner is, do you fire him now or wait till the season's over?
Probably wait till. You're week 13 already.
Most owners have the respect for their coaches that they don't,